Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Mullen. Our special guest today is Keith Kravitz from My Property Vault.
Yes.
So I look at that name and I look at your beautiful shirt over here. All right, your wife did a good job in picking that out. All right, so tell us about My Property Vault.
Well, My Property Vault was a creation from some things that we saw in the insurance industry. We were insurance adjusters, and we did thousands and thousands of claims. And one of the things we saw is that most homeowners aren't prepared for a claim, which is not really that shocking because nobody expects anything to ever happen to their home until it does. And when we would get there, they would have had damage done to their home where they lost a lot of stuff. Maybe it was flooded and they threw a lot of things out in their lawns. And now we're trying to document the damage in the claim. And we found out that they had no documentation. They had no photos of the information. They had no photos of the things that they had lost. And they had no documents for like receipts and things like that are required for insurance in order to get compensated.
And so people, myself included, go, well, that's going to happen. I might take a picture of the house maybe. All right.
Right.
But we get that there was a roof on the house.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But you have all the other stuff that is now completely soaked, maybe
Correct.
torn up, maybe out the front door.
Yes.
So how do people get convinced that they really need to do that? Does it take some other tragedy somewhere for somebody to go, I think I need to do this?
Well, you know, it's funny. The insurance industry has been promoting doing a home inventory for a long time. Whether you go to State Farm or the national insurance industry, they all ask you, and they even send letters out to the insured, please do a home inventory of your home. But in all of the thousands of cases we've done, I think I remember 2 that actually had some type of a home inventory. It's just not something people have on the top of their mind, and it's not something they know how to do as detailed as they need to in order to get compensated.
So you've been out where there's been devastation for people's homes and their lives for a while until they can put that back together. So when people are traumatized like that, they're not prepared to like remember, oh yeah, I had this jewelry over here and here's the box and it's not there anymore. Or we used to have a boat, all right, which is now gone. We don't know quite where it is. So when you were out there, you would interview and talk to the claimant, if you will.
Yep.
And so what is that like when you're out there talking to people and they haven't slept in 3 days and their roof is gone? What is that like for you?
Well, they are traumatized. You said the correct word. I mean, most people are so paralyzed with what should I do? All they want to do first is clean up because they see this huge mess in their home and their home is destroyed and the items in their home are destroyed. And all they want to do is get the stuff that's ruined out of their house and move it out of there and try to sweep up and clean. And people are in, people that are executives are wearing shorts and work shirts and no matter what it is, and they're cleaning up their house because it's a mess. And then you come in to try to do an insurance adjustment and help them understand what they have to detail, and they're so lost at that time. And I'll do a little experiment with you. Just close your eyes for a minute and think of like your living room, which probably has the most contents you have in any other part of your room. Now, visualize that and tell me all the different things you have in your living room.
I got the couch, I got some stuff on the wall, had some cabinets.
Yeah, some stuff on the wall.
I don't even know what's over there anymore.
Right. So the point is you don't know. There's stuff in drawers that you don't know about. There's things that you don't think about, and you're not traumatized. Now just put trauma on top of it and try to figure all of that out. And they really don't have an idea of what they have, nor what the value of the items they have. So they're really in a bad shape.
So this is the beginning of the hurricane season here in Florida, right? And we know that we're susceptible to those things as well as many other coastal states. So if somebody really wanted to get prepared for that, all right, eventuality that we're going to have some damage, they need to keep track of this stuff. So when the time comes, they're going to go, here's my waterproof list of everything that has been in my house and well documented so that the insurance company, when they send the guys out, say, here it is.
That's correct. And what's really interesting is most people think about documenting things very differently because they're not in the insurance industry. We think about it quite differently because we are in the insurance industry. So we know that you have to look at each room individually. We know you have to look at the materials that are in each room because you may have a section of your house that's destroyed. Let's just say you and not necessarily in a hurricane, even in a fire, the most prominent place that a fire happens is a kitchen. Well, let's say you just redid your kitchen, which a lot of people did over especially since COVID, and you did all these new cabinets, all these new surfaces for your countertops, but you didn't document everything you had. Now you're going back to your insurance company and say, well, yeah, I just redid my whole kitchen. Would you have any pictures of it?
So they want evidence.
They want evidence.
If they don't have evidence, you don't have a claim.
That's correct. The reality is that the burden of proof is always with the homeowner. I had a client who not only had hurricane damage, but while he was evacuated from his home, had over $25,000 worth of fishing equipment that was stolen. So now he's asking me, what can he do to file the claim for the stolen fishing equipment? I said, well, do you have any pictures? He goes, well, some of them on my boat. I said, would you have any individual pictures of the fishing equipment? Do you have any receipts for any of the fishing equipment? And of course, the answer was no. And I said, well, unfortunately, the insurance company doesn't believe that you had all that $25,000 worth of fishing equipment without the proof.
And why would they?
And why would they? They can't, because there is so much fraud that goes on that they would never just pay somebody without proof of that information. And then the second thing is that what most people don't understand is that the insurance company requires additional documentation if it's worth over $500. So any item that's worth over $500, they're going to ask for receipts or valuations done on that item to determine exactly what it's worth.
And historically, explain to me, if you would, let's say you went and you bought the refrigerator and it cost you $2,000, and then the storm comes and it's ruined and it's 5 years old.
Yep.
What does that mean to the homeowner? I spent $2,000, and if I'm going to replace it, it's going to cost me $20. Let's say it's just $2,000. All right.
Yeah.
But what does that mean as far as being compensated on a 5-year-old refrigerator?
So there's two types of replacement costs for the insurance company. There's actual cash value, and then there's replacement cost value. And so depending on your policy, it may mean different things. Actual cash value would count in depreciation. So it would look at that 5-year-old refrigerator and says, well, what's a 5-year-old used refrigerator worth? And that's what it do. And generally speaking, what's interesting is when the insurance company, they use a software, well, most of us use the same software in the field, which is called Xactimate. And they have a general name, for a 26 cubic foot refrigerator, it'll be a certain price. Well, the problem is if you have a high-end Wolf refrigerator, that's not accounted for it's accounted for at the same level as a Frigidaire. It's not the same brand and it costs a lot more, but from a point of view of the insurance company, it's worth the same because of the way they document.
So if people knew that up front, at least they won't be in shock, which they're going to be.
Correct.
Right?
They're in shock when they're offered pennies on the dollar.
Because that's what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to for what it was worth. Then yes, they're shocked.
So patio screen, I don't know how much they are around the pool today, $20,000, $25,000. Yeah. And so let's say it's 10 years old. All right. You're not getting paid anything to speak of.
Well, and that's the other thing. Most people don't understand their insurance policies. Because we're insurance adjusters, we'll actually do a free review for you, tell you what you're actually covered for and what you're not. In most cases, a lot of screen enclosures are not even covered. So that's not necessarily something you want.
I'm getting more depressed by moment. Every minute I'm getting more and more depressed. Yeah, we're covered, Susan, don't worry.
Well, that's the thing, is that most people don't know what they're covered for or if they have the proper coverage. So for example, jewelry is one of the big categories that if you got robbed or if something got lost in that, you wouldn't know what it was. Well, jewelry in most insurance policies are only limited at $1,500. So you have to get a personal article policy if you want to cover anything that's above that amount.
So if somebody has a $10,000 ring, all right, that was retail, all right?
Right.
And so you're going to say, yeah, you're covered. You're going to get $1,500. Here it is.
Exactly. That's it.
And we think we're paying for $10,000.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. A lot of people have really good content insurance in their mind. They have $100,000 or $500,000 of contents insurance, which is what covers personal property. But the reality is, if you don't have all that $100,000 or $500,000 documented, you don't have that coverage.
So with the insurance situation. It's no longer a crisis because we're living it. At some point, it moves from a crisis to, hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So if people wanted to change their policies so they're going to get replacement stuff or to increase it, is it difficult today to do that?
No, you can actually do what they call riders or personal articles policies to cover the things that are not covered.
Is that with the same insurance company or somebody else?
Usually with the same, unless it's some type of unusual thing. But yes, there are specialty insurance companies out there that do specific, very specialized insurances. But for the most part, it'll be with your same broker. And we work with a lot of insurance brokers to help them get that valuation.
So somebody that has insurance on the $10,000, let's say they're covered for a replacement. So you pay $10,000, you're not getting the $10,000.
Right.
Even if you're insured, you're going to get a replacement.
You're going to get a replacement cost.
Replacement cost.
Yeah. So let's say it's jewelry, like you talked about that ring. Well, if in those cases in a personal article policy, you need a certified appraiser, which means you have to have somebody come out who's a certified appraiser and tell you what that diamond ring is worth now. And then they'll give that certified appraisal to the insurance company, and then they will do a personal articles policy that covers it. And we have certified appraisers on our staff to do that.
So what percentage of people that you've dealt with claims have actually do all this stuff? He can't even get to one.
I'm trying to really help you here.
I remember once, I think.
Yeah, there's been like one or two. And all the thousands of claims that we do that actually have all of their items documented and covered the way it needs to be.
Because we don't live like that. Somebody has to instruct you. You need to do it. A couple of years ago over in the West Coast, there were hundreds, I think, of boats that moved from their home on the dock to the turnpike, if you will.
Yes.
Boats are pretty pricey.
Yes, and that's a different insurance coverage as well. And by the way, you can do contents insurance on your boats too, because a lot of people have very expensive items on their boats. So we can do that for them as well.
So let's look at let's say it's a boat. The boat is $300,000, which they are all over. You could probably put a $300,000 boat right in this room. On the average policy that a boat owner would take out, what are they going to get? Let's say the boat's totaled.
That's completely different, and it really depends on what's happened to the boat. I just had a claim with a client that had basically his boat got lost on the West Coast during Ian, literally got completely lost. They found it, but it was completely damaged, but he couldn't get a total loss for it. So it really depends on that goes more into harbor, different types of laws that are associated with that and how that coverage works. It's a little bit away from what we do, but it's really hard to say what they'll get for that.
So insurance cover is different than with Hurricane Andrew 30 years ago.
Yes, quite a bit different.
$700 a year, you got everything covered.
The insurance companies paid virtually everything in Andrew, and then they realized that's not going to work for us as a model. And that's why a lot of them went out of business. Yep. So they're very, very strict now, actually more strict than ever. And the new law that passed in December makes it even more restricted and puts more burden of proof on the homeowner.
So the homeowners have to find somebody like you, which they can do all over the internet. They're going to find your company there.
Right.
And so they can get educated. Thank you. My brain is being fried right now. Thank you very much. All right. I know you're used to it.
I'm used to it, yes.
Right. And you go, yeah, we have insurance, but you know what? We really don't. All right. But most deductibles on windstorm claims there's a percentage of deductible is
right. Either 2 to 5%.
So, and on that value, that is of the whole property or the house.
That's of the whole claim itself.
Yeah. So if your house is appraised at $1 million, so 5% is, let's see, 10% is how much? $50,000.
Yes.
So you have to have $50,000 before anything happens.
Well, you have $50,000 worth of damage before anything happens. So they don't take that out of your pocket. It's very different than health insurance where you have to pay out in front. And a lot of people get that confused as well. You have 5%, but if you have $250,000 worth of damage and you have a $50,000 deductible, what it means is you're only going to get $200,000.
Okay. But out of the 200, if it's not replacement and it's depreciated value, so you might have a 200,000 as damage, all right, you're down to 150, and out of the 150, they're going to pay you what you signed up for, which would be get depreciated value.
Correct.
So just have a lot of money, all right, and a concrete house.
Well, but the key here is this. The better your documentation is, the better you'll be able to use what you are covered for. And that's the most important thing.
And so it's vital that anybody that cares has a professional directing them. Because in the old days, you could go out, take a couple pictures, you think you were good. But as the insurance company gets stricter and stricter, which is we need clear evidence that you have this.
Right.
Somebody like yourself is going to say, listen, you need a receipt for this, you need an appraisal for this, you need to have lots of pictures, and here's all the things you need. So when there's a claim, right, and you say, and they're kept in some vault somewhere, I assume.
Right, we keep it online, yes.
Okay, right, there it is, stored wherever it is in that vault. Then you say, okay, we have the claim, and then you can go to your insurance company. Here's all the stuff that was in the house.
Correct, yes.
The thought of going through a major calamity again for most of us down here is just unfathomable that could happen. Sometimes people think, oh, if we get one hurricane in season, no, we don't expect another one. But it could happen, right? Very easily.
Well, it's not always hurricanes. We've had 2 floods in the Fort Lauderdale area in the last year, and they were just from storms. And the airport was flooded. The entire Fort Lauderdale area was flooded. Imagine this. One of my clients that was in the Fort Lauderdale area from the flood had 4 feet of water in their house. 4 feet. Now, again, you can close your eyes if you want to, but you don't have to. Just imagine when 4 feet of water comes into your house today, how much do you have left that's not damaged? Most people don't understand, but that kind of water, which is flood water, comes in is what they call black water, and it's toxic. So anything it touches has to be thrown away.
Yep.
So how much of your house did you just throw away?
Yep. Yep. A lot.
Yeah. So that's the kind of damage that we see happen that has nothing to do with a hurricane. And then there's also robberies and fires and all other types of things that happen that have nothing to do with a hurricane. But obviously hurricanes are always on the top of our mind here in Florida.
So people are very concerned about their roofs, all right, because the insurance companies got really concerned about them.
Sure.
Replacing roofs are pretty expensive.
Yes.
You know, 30 to 200,000, 300,000, depending on the size.
Sure.
That's a big number.
Yes.
All right. I understand that the state changed some regulation concerning the condition of the roof. Can you explain that?
Sure. I mean, that's getting into some things that, you know, when we're on the insurance claim side, we can talk about. But we also we give you a roof report so we can tell you what your roof, the size of your roof is, the materials of your roof, and what the normal replacement cost is. So that's the first thing. But what happens now in a storm is that if they can repair just a portion of the roof, they can just pay you for just that portion of the roof. Also, if your roof is too old, they may not cover you like they used to. In other words, if a roof is older than 10 years old now, they may say, well, we're not covering you for the roof, or you need to update it or get it covered, you know, get it fixed and repaired now.
So in that case, if they don't cover you for the roof, if damage comes through the roof, wind and rain, does that mean they don't cover the damage because the roof wasn't
you're getting complicated on the insurance side, but that could mean and it may not mean. It really depends on the insurance side. But the reality is this, is that if you're not covered for the roof, it's just the roof itself that's not covered. It's like if you have an AC leak, you're not covered for your air conditioning ever. And a lot of people don't realize this happens in Florida all the time, where the AC backs up, and then all of a sudden you have what I had happen in my own house, where my entire office got ruined because my AC backed up and ruined my whole house. The AC is not covered itself, but the damage that comes from the water is covered.
So what I'm getting out of this, we have 6 minutes left, is that people have to be prepared and have all that stuff. So when there is a claim, whether it's from a flood or fire or theft or a storm or whatever else, some car crashing into, that you've got everything documented, because when the trauma happens,
it's too late.
Yes. It's sort of hard to
So we make it really, we're really efficient at the way we do it. We start off with a 360-degree virtual tour, and which means we can actually walk through your house, almost like you see when you're selling a house, but we walk through the house with the idea that we're documenting the whole house for a claim. That's the first thing we do. Then we take documentation of each room, and we look at every room, and then we come back a second time to do what we call detailed documentation on the items that are of higher value. And so we document that with the detail that's needed so that it's covered for insurance. So, and we do all of that in a 2-visit process with you.
So when they call up and they go, hey, insurance company, well, what evidence do you have, Yona?
You have everything you need up in the cloud, and we can bring it down. We can do a report based on each room, or based on each item.
And the adjusters pay attention to people that have that.
Oh yeah, I mean,
because they know this guy's
they don't
serious.
see it very often, so they really pay attention because they're going to say, this guy has all the valuations, he has all the photos. What they love more than anything is the clarity. There's no fraud. The insurance company just doesn't want fraud.
Yep.
They're not against everybody as much as people think. They just don't want fraud.
Yep.
It feels like they're against you sometimes, though. But yeah, that's how it works.
Well, of course, we're going through a lot of changes here in our insurance here in Florida. Hopefully, it'll be stable.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And so people really need to pay attention to this. They can find you on the internet. And what is your email, your website address?
www.mypropertyvault.com.
Mypropertyvault.com.
And yeah, our number is 888-VAULT, VAULT 00. So that's an easy way to remember our phone number, too.
This is a really interesting subject. I guess you figured out. I'm sort of intrigued by this process.
You're not the first person that says that. The first time we tell people what goes on in a home inventory, they don't always understand why it's important. But once they realize that they have insurance that they pay thousands of dollars for every year, but they've never taken the time to document the things in their home once, let alone on a continuous basis. And that's one of the other things, is you can continually update your My Property Vault inventory yourself, or we can come out once a year and audit it for you and update it each year.
And having a third party do that enhances your position with the insurance company.
Of course,
it wasn't just me doing. No, we're serious. We hired. Here's all the stuff.
Right, and that's the reason why they require certified appraisals for certain things, because they want a third party independent person to come out and do it for you. So this way, it's not you just saying you have it, because they don't always believe you. This is us coming in as professionals and making sure that you're documented properly.
And how long you been in this arena, Keith?
We've been in the insurance industry for over 10 years, doing property damage claims. We started My Property Vault this last year, so we're really focused on trying to fill this gap that's been really not been filled for as long as I've been doing insurance.
Well, you have a lot of energy, got a lot of stuff upside, up there, and our studio audience over here, you keep smiling over here.
Yeah.
All right. And I do want to thank Michelle for producing the show. And so, again, if somebody needs to reach you, they can find you on all over the internet, be able to do that. And people should understand why they need to do this. And they could actually go online and say, why do I need to have completely accurate records for my insurance company?
Yeah, and actually you could look at their own insurance sites, and like I said, they all have videos talking about the catastrophe where somebody didn't have their items documented, like from the fires in California to the tornadoes in Tennessee to the hurricanes in South Florida. There's always a story out there where somebody lost everything.
And we know when the money part is okay, that you start feeling okay.
Right.
And if it's not okay, you're not feeling too good.
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for me as an insurance adjuster is seeing how people feel that they not only got hurt the first time from a storm, but how they got hurt on the back end from the compensation. Yeah. And if they're at least compensated, they feel a lot better about it.
Wonderful. Keith,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great job. And again, Michelle, thank you very much for producing the show. Again, folks, you can reach My Property Vault all over the internet, and you can speak to Keith himself. And thanks for joining us. And remember, take care of yourself.